Microphone check, 1, 2, what is this? It's the 5'7" assassin in the podcast business. I am your host, Rohan Patra, the rap music plug at your service.
Here we are again at the end of our rainbow.
In sports, the greatest of the greats transcend era, meaning their skills translate to any period of time in the sport's history, no matter the rules, the offensive and defensive styles, or talent pool present. If you plop them into the 90s or the 2020s, makes no difference, they'd put up numbers. In music and rapper terms, that's who I feel Wiki is. New York's Wiki is what they call a rapper's rapper. Gifted as a lyricist, with a style that could exist within the early 90s East Coast dusty boom bap sound, or as he does now, working in the modern, experimental realms through his work as RATKING and as a collaborator with Nah on Telephone Booth, thriving in the drumless soundscapes of a navy blue on Half God, or showcasing his dexterous flow atop booming bass-heavy sounds supplied by Subject 5 on his latest mixtape, Cold Cuts. Not even having reached his 30th birthday, Wiki has already received mass acclaim for his work as RATKING and as a solo artist, with revered projects that showcase his exceptional penmanship, remarkable versatility, and immense deep passion for this thing called hip-hop that we all love so dearly. I am honored to welcome Wiki to the show to understand his perspectives on his success so far in his career, what rap truly means to him and does for him as a person, and get some insights from his latest projects as well. This was such a fun one. Let's get to it. The Rap Music Plug podcast presented by QLC TV is the remedy to the I don't have anything good to listen to problem. Through in-depth album and song reviews, as well as artist interviews and general rap commentary sprinkled in between on all of what the mainstream and underground rap scenes have to offer, this is your one-stop shop to knowing what to add to your queue, play next, or pop into your record player. Welcome to the show. Wiki, how you doing today?
Good. What's good? Just chilling at the crib. It's a nice day out in New York. I'm good.
Yeah. I'm happy we could meet after your show in Toronto and set this up. Like, I've been huge admirer of your music for literally like 9 years. I think I heard you first with So It Goes. So yeah, like a full on 9 years. So it's an honor to have you on.
Oh, hell yeah, man. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. And it's good to have someone, like there's different entry levels to my shit, but like So It Goes, that's like really the beginning of the first real shit. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah,
and the project I'm like proud of to this day. You know what I mean?
Oh man, you should be. Like, I think also, like when I heard So It Goes, like I was 2014, 2015 was a time in my life where I really started to venture out into like my first forays into just general experimental, more like left field music. So even like other genres like fucking Radiohead and shit like that. And I think I really like So It Goes when it dropped, but listening to it now, it's like that much better. That shit is crazy.
I feel like I haven't listened to that in years, just because I don't always listen to my own shit, and then especially like old. You know what I mean? It's not even like you just forget to like go throw it on and like hear how it aged and everything. But I'd be curious to hear, because I feel like there's a lot of stuff now that's like the genres are getting pushed so many different ways, which is so ill to see. But I feel like So It Goes was like an early version of that. You know what I mean? Like we were really just trying to. A lot of that came from sport, really. Which is like I was really lucky to have met him when I was like at that age where I was like, like trying to really do the rap shit in like high school. You know what I mean? Just taking it seriously and like trying to make something. And like he kind of had that idea of like, we got to do something that's like not. Yeah, he was like rap. He was kind of like he was over rap at the time, but then he heard me and he was like, "Oh, you're nice. You have this like thing about you that old MCs in a way, but we got to do something new." You know what I mean? So all that together, like us together, really made it what had happened. And then like Hawk was my homie in high school. So I mean, since middle school, really, but
Oh, word.
all just came together. But yeah, I mean, I think like our whole goal with Rat King was like trying to do something that was different, but at the same time, not sacrifice the quality of like the rap and hip hop element of it itself. You know what I mean? Because I felt like at the time there was like experimental hip hop and like weird hip hop, but a lot of it was like some. It wasn't necessarily. It was more like the quad. I don't know, like the bars. It wasn't like a
Yeah, I
rap.
know the feeling.
Like,
Yeah.
oh shit, this shit is hard. You know what I mean? It was more like its own thing, influenced by rap. But you know what I mean?
No, I like how you said it. It was influenced by rap. Like I wouldn't call those because I think I know the artists like the albums you're referring to. Like I wouldn't call them not rap, but it just felt like rap was a part of the kind of collection of sounds they were pulling from. Whereas Rat King was rap, like first and
Exactly.
foremost.
Yeah.
Like it was, and then it just happened to be like strange. And I think the way you guys played with like time signature, like that's a lot to do with the sound from Sporting Life, but and then just the way you rapped, I feel like that shit was so ahead of the times of what we hear a lot nowadays where people are just like the way they use their flow is like so free. Like there's so much less rules and it's just allowed for such crazy results. And I think you guys were like really some pioneers with that.
Yeah, for sure. Nah, I feel that. And like just even that era of music, you know, like it was I grew up so much on like New York hip hop, but then at the same time, that's when I was also like starting to listen to more, just going back on the southern shit, whether it was 3 6, old 3 6, or like I remember getting mad into juvenile, like, but like
Mm.
I always knew about Juvie and everything, but then getting like listening to the albums and being like 400 degrees and like listening through and being like, yo, these flows are ill. And then kind of being able to like, once you open your mind to that shit, you can kind of like recontextualize some of the influence, you know what I mean? And people will be like, whoa, that's a crazy flow. It might be just me doing a Juvie type flow, but then it's me, so you would never even know. You know what I mean? You would never connect the dots because it's so like two different worlds, you know?
Yeah, and I think speaking of like juvenile, that's kind of where I want to go right now because one thing I heard you say in some interview recently or maybe in the past couple of years that you really like incorporating melody is something you really pride yourself on and like how you put it in your music. And when I never really would have even said that myself until you said it, and then I'm like, "Oh shit, you that's a huge part of your music." Like just the way you flow, it has like a musical element to it, but it still feels like it doesn't feel like you're doing a hook or like a singy songy shit, like a like a
Yeah.
Drake or other kind of artists that like melodic rap. Like it's
Hmm.
still really rap, but it's really interesting how you've done that. Like, what are some other influences? Like you said, mentioned Juvenile, like other influences that helped you kind of carve out this kind of pretty
For
one of a kind style.
Yeah, I mean, one of the biggest is most Def,
Ooh,
Yasiin Bey.
yeah.
Uh, because he's like that. He's like melodic as hell within the rap, and he can like sing too.
Hmm.
But also, like Most is just someone who it's not like you would never call Most like, oh, he's a singer rapper.
Yeah.
Most is a MC, but he has those. If you listen to anything, even when he's flowing, he'll even within the verse, he'll like bring in the melodics, and it's just
Yeah.
I feel like it's something about it is maybe it's like it's like organic or something. It's not like it's like now I'm turning to the singing voice or something. It's like it's within the rap. You know what I mean? It's kind of like just. I mean, even like ODB does it in a like raw way. You know what I
Right.
mean? But it's like
100%.
all those things. Even Busta Rhymes does it when he gets like eccentric with the way he's saying shit. But I feel like yeah, Most was one of the biggest ones for me. Lil Wayne too. Like Wayne is someone who I grew up on. That's our era, and like he was always melodic when he was spitting his ass off. You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
rapping his ass off, but you would hear the little sing songy shit within it. You know what I mean? So I think those two. I think Most and Lil Wayne, and that kind of is two different spectrums of the. You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
both MCs like top five type shit, but it's like totally different. But like I feel like, and even that, having the two different sides and like being able to have an open influence, I think is helped me as an artist to not be too stuck in a certain
Right.
style, a certain lane. You know what I mean? It's just very like open ended. Sometimes I
It's
struggle with that because I'm like, oh, what do I do? Which way should I go on this project? Which way should I go on? You know what I mean? Like,
it's seamless. I think that's the way I'd say it. It just kind of like it doesn't feel like, oh, it's Wiki doing this, Wiki doing that. It's just Wiki rapping. Full stop.
yeah,
Like that's it. It's just it's all of that's part of the experience really. And it's actually fun. I'm planning a trip to New York this coming May. Super fucking pumped for that. Never really been as
you
an
around,
adult.
bro. Hit me
Yeah.
up.
Yeah, man. I'd love to meet up. And it's a place that obviously you called home for your basically your whole life. A place that is I feel so represented in your music more than almost any artist I can think of. Like when I listen to Wiki, it's like I'm listening to a New York like experience here from like the character, the grit in the music, the kind of like creativity and diverse spirit of NYC that I always hear about so much. Like I can hear that in how you approach your music, the styles, all the variety. How would you describe the influence New York's had on your music?
Yeah, I mean, I think that New York is definitely something that has shaped me as a person and just as an artist. And also in a way where like it's almost it's almost hard to sometimes it's hard for me to understand the level because it's like just so normal. You know what I mean? It's just like where I grew up and it's like just always been maybe regular to me. But I think
Hmm.
that's a big part about it too. Like even having pride in that and like just, going and traveling and realizing, having an open minded things, but realizing like the difference of like, you know what I mean, where you're from and like whether it's how you talk or like just like the way people, you know what I mean, the way that the city is just really like fluid. Like, when you go somewhere else, sometimes you gotta like drive from point A to point B. You gotta
Right.
plan everything out. Like New York, you don't have to plan shit. You can just go outside and like you walk to the park, boom, meet up with, bump into someone. You know what I mean? Like the whole day is like totally open, and you could just end up in whatever. You know what I mean? So I feel like I don't know. Yeah, it's just always been like a place of like inspiration in that way. Like you never short of any of any like something inspiring even to see. Even just like sitting in the park, like watching people be crazy and shit. Like
Mm.
you know what I mean? The different characters, like that's what I love about New York. And I don't think there's like one type of New Yorker or anything. That's like another thing. It's like there's so many different perspectives, but everyone's like kind of together and on each other. And I love that shit. But yeah, it's definitely like something that's hard to describe exactly how it's influenced me, but it's just like you could hear it in the music more, you know what I mean? And like even for me, sometimes I'm like, damn, I don't want to like make this all about New York, but then it ends up just being it because that's like where I'm at. It's my environment. It's like part of me, you know? And I think even also just when you're young, having like an identity, like I feel like New York, it's something you take on. It's like a pride you take on, you know what I mean? You're like proud of that shit. Like any other city though. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I love that's why I love like music and scenes from other cities, especially other cities, especially that are like very like I love like Bay Area hip hop in a way. I'm not like an expert on Bay Area hip hop. A lot
Mm.
of the homies are more experts on that, but it's like just I love the way that the scene itself is so like self-contained and it's like you could be a legend just within
In
that.
that, yeah, 100%.
And
Yeah.
that's even like New York is a high ceiling. That's the thing. It's New York City, but there is that world in New York where it's like that local, that just local shit. You know what I mean? Where it's like it might not be the biggest thing in the world, but it's like it's self-sustaining in the city. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like in New York, it's like Cam said, as long as New York, you could fool the rest of the world, long as New York know. You know what I mean? It's
Mm.
like I think sport probably sampled that shit at some point, but like that whole idea of like it's like all right, but there's still, you know what I mean? There's still like it's like the fucking like the whole. I was literally watching the Locks Dipset. It's funny Cam said that, but I was watching the Locks Dipset battle last night because I was just
Yeah.
bored as fuck.
Oh yeah.
That shit, it's like yo, that's some like as long as New York know, you know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
Locks just ripped it, you know what I'm saying? But
New York's just like everything. Like I mean, just it's your person. It's influence you as a person, which obviously that bleeds into the music. Your music is quite personal as it is. And you know, like I know many people personally that have you like ranked as one of their absolute favorite rappers, period. Like they say, like, Half God, album of the year 2021, Cold Cuts, constant in rotation. It goes without saying that obviously you've experienced a lot of success in your career. And I wonder, like, when you were, let's say it was like 2013, Rat King's really starting to like become a thing. You released like the EP prior, and you're getting So It Goes ready. Like, did you ever envision that your career would end up as it has almost a decade later? And did you believe, have this like inevitability about like, oh, I'm gonna do this 100%. Like I have that like classic, like I knew I was gonna be here from day one.
Yeah, I mean it's interesting because I think at that time I felt like that. Like I was like, oh nah, for sure. Like because you're young and everything.
Mm,
I feel like now I'm more like, damn, I've been in the game a minute, and it's all about, it's all about just realizing like there's no, I don't know, sometimes you like question yourself because at the end of the day, it's like it's like a like this, we're like freelance. I'd be looking at like I'm a fucking freelance artist. That's how I look at it because it's not like, especially like being indie and doing it yourself, like you really have to like, you don't have that like that just, you know what I mean? You don't have like a label there to like just
hmm
cushion your shit. You know what I mean? You have to like deal with everything yourself. You gotta pay for all the touring and all that shit. So it's like that shit's like maybe I envisioned when I was younger, like, oh, it's gonna, you always are like, oh, it's gonna be all lit in a couple years,
hmm
but then it's like it's always just the hustle. You know what I mean? Like the hustle doesn't stop. So I think I'm just happy to even. It's cool, like even like what you said, like going out to different cities, no matter how big the crowd is or whatever. There's like those fans that have the vinyl from
Yeah.
back whenever it's So It Goes, No Mountains, whatever it is, and they're like, yo, Half God, they're like, oh shit, we need you to sign this shit. I saw you 10 years ago, the one time you came to this city. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
oh, you haven't been here 4 years, you haven't been here five, whatever it is. And I'm like, all right, well, there's these solid, there's solid support. And then that makes you like, all right, you're doing, sometimes you lose purpose. You're like, what am I doing this for? But then when
hmm
you see that, you're like, bro, for these kids, it's like for anyone that's just like, oh shit, I came out to see this shit and they're hype and they got the vibe. You
hmm
know what I mean? They actually like respect your art for real. It's not some like, this is the hype show to be at tonight. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
It's
one
not to be
thing.
trendy. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, oh, this is the cool show to be at. We all going to the show. That's cool. And I feel like you have those moments when certain projects come out, certain things are hype. You know what I mean? There's the ebbs and flows or whatever the fuck. Is that what it says? Ebbs and
Yeah.
flows.
Yeah. That makes sense.
My bad, bro. I'll be saying fried expressions in a fried way. But like, yeah, so I think like actually it's more like now I'm like, oh, where am I at? But you just got to keep going. You know what I mean? Because back then you're just young and eager. You know what I mean? And it was like we got signed to XL, and it was like lit. But then also then Rat King broke up. Then I felt like Wiki, I had to like re,
Reinvent yourself in a way.
yeah, not necessarily reinvent myself, just put in that work of like gaining the support and like the fans and shit. You know what I mean? On the solo side, because to this day you still hear like, oh man, that Rat King shit. But at the
Yeah.
same time, like I hear the other side too. People be like, Lil Me, that's the shit. It's like there's all the different.
hmm
I like the different entry levels. Like you could have discovered me on Half God, and that could have been like, whoa, this is his first shit. Like you thought that, you know what I mean?
hmm
So I think that's cool. Like, and then it's just more history to dig into. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man, it's such a good feeling as a listener when you like, and it's not even like necessarily like your first time, but when you first like really click with an artist, you're like, oh shit, this fire. Like listening to a project drop last year, and then you realize, yo, they have like 5 years of more work. It's just like shit. I have like, now I know what I'm doing for the next week. Like it's a good
Nah, I
feeling
feel
to
that.
have that back catalog.
And I think it's just about like not forgetting why. That's the other thing. When you're young, you're like, this is what I'm doing. But then time passes, and then like life happens, and you're like, also once something becomes a job, then you're like, wait, you start to have to find the purpose again in it. It's not just like
hmm
this thing you're doing. Like you have school, and then after school, you're like, all right, this is all I want to do. You know what I'm saying? Now you're
Yeah.
like, this is my life. Like so, just trying to keep finding a purpose in it, and you know what I mean, finding that inspiration and shit.
Yeah, that must be like I can imagine that can be a challenge once you hit a certain level. And I think you were 23 about when So It Goes dropped, if I'm not mistaken. So
Maybe.
because you're a 93?
I'm 93, so yeah, you would
Yeah,
know.
yeah, because I'm
Uh,
95. Yeah, so yeah, because I was
I'm
20.
saying you did the math. Got you.
Yeah.
Got you. My bad. I'm like so bad with the year.
It's all good. It's all good.
Oh, wait, what year did that come out? 2013?
2014.
2014. Got you.
Yeah. And so like yeah, like that's still pretty young. Like I know what I was doing where my mindset was at 23. So I can imagine that getting such acclaim and fame at a young age probably or surely affected how you kind of like matured a bit differently than other regular folk around that age. So how do you feel that kind of early success affected you as a person? And like do you feel like you did a good job dealing with the success, or were there some struggles?
Yeah, I mean, I think I don't know. That's the thing. To me, I never felt like it was like fame in that level, you know? Like it's kind of like that line I said, never wanted the type of fame where I can't ride the train. Like
Mm,
I always felt like there was like, I don't know, it wasn't just like, oh my God, you're famous, but I know what you mean in terms of more like success. Or just like having that, like, oh shit's actually working out and it's like the fans are coming out, the shows, you know what I mean? And then like, but I think like if anything, maybe I just was like partied a lot, but I feel like I would have been in college or something too. So I would have been,
yeah.
you know what I mean? I feel like it's not too out of the ordinary for me. I'm always like RATKING was like college to me or some shit. Cause it was just like I was still like with the homies. There was like a support group. It wasn't just me on my own. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Support was older than us, so it was like some guidance there and like. But like, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I never took it like. I was always like, nah, this shit isn't successful enough. Like, I need to get to the next one. I'm trying to do better. You know what I mean? Like, I'm
Hmm.
usually like over my shit. Not over it, but once I make something and I've listened to it for so long, once it drops, usually I'm like, all right, I'm on to the next. Like, so I usually maybe to a fault, I'm not like in the moment enough. You know what I mean? I'm always like
That's
trying to
interesting.
go forward with it. But yeah, I mean, I'm like a normal shy guy too. Like, so I'm not really like, you know what I mean? I just like to take it easy. Back in the day, I used to get turned a bunch, but
Mm.
I still do once in a while. You know what I mean?
Mm.
On a little off night, but yeah, it wasn't too much of like a weird thing. Like for me, the type of thing I get, it's usually just respect. You know, like when I'm walking around the neighborhood or whatever, and people are like, "Yo, Wick," it's always like it's never like weird. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's always just like, "Oh, yo, Wick, what up?" Like respect.
Yeah,
Because I
that's
feel
it.
like I feel like my music is very like personal and it's already like if you're like if you know my music really well you kind of know me pretty well, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
I'm just saying my shit. It's not like I'm like trying to put on some. There is a character. It's like the confident version of myself or something, but it's not like this. It's not like so far from who I am. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah. It's just like a side of you versus like a character. Like you're not one of those rappers that's putting on like yeah, like
Exactly.
artistically or whatever reason for other reasons, just putting on different vibe there.
Yeah, no,
Um,
exactly. Because it could be artistically. Even that, sometimes I'm like, it's fun to get out of the character. Like you gotta like, like on Half God, there's the drug supplier joint. Like that's just like a story. You know what I
yeah.
mean? Just some storytelling shit. Like,
Hmm.
and I feel like that's cool too. Like that's important in rap too. Like just being able to tell a story. Not everything has to be like about you. You know?
Hmm. Well, I find it interesting that you're able to just like keep a level head because I mean I don't know how I'd take that. I don't know if I wouldn't get just like super fucking cocky all of a sudden and just be like, yeah,
I
I'm the shit all the time.
sometimes I wish I was more. Not wish more is more cocky, but I overthink a lot. You know what I mean? So I'm
I
like
feel that.
I overthink shit. So like it's hard to be so like not cocky, but when you're the type of person that's just like in a room and they don't give a fuck, and you can just
Hmm.
tell they're like at the show, they're like drinking, like whatever, then they're killing it. You're like, damn, like you're really just like I admire that in people. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? That's so ill. It just seems to come with such ease. You know what I mean?
Man,
Like for me, it's
man,
way
I'm
more like, all
very
right,
similar to
gotta
you
like,
like that.
yeah, you know what I mean. So I think it's a blessing and a curse, but it's both. It's like
It's
it
both for sure.
works both ways. You know what I mean? It works both ways for sure. Because I see that like people can get really like get their head. I even see it to this day. Like people like get a little bit something and they get their head up their ass. You know what I mean? Like
Mm-hmm.
immediately. And you're like,
Yeah.
damn, you just got a little look and now you got your head up your ass. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I'm saying? So I think that's important to stay just grounded. You know what I mean?
And looking back from your earliest work to now, like what do you think's been the main aspect of your artistry, of your craft that you feel changed and or like improved the most over recent years?
I think I don't know, on the writing side, I just got more productive with writing, you know? Like I just started really I used to be like, oh, I'm gonna write once in a while. Like I would always be writing, you know, when you come up with something, but just that I think maybe the work ethic, just the work ethic of like really enjoying just sitting down and writing like every day, you know what I mean? So that I think during Half God was like when I really I don't know, like I went through a weird period. It was like I mean, it was like COVID and shit for everyone, but it was like I didn't really know we left Excel. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I almost like didn't really give a shit. Not didn't give a shit, but I was like, I'll just do whatever. But then that
Mm-hmm.
actually helped me because it was like I stopped caring about what I wasn't like I'm trying to make something that's gonna whatever. I was just like, let me just make whatever, write whatever, and not like overthink it. And I think that like roof came out of that and shit like that. You know
Mm.
what I mean? I was just like, let me just write. It's not like, oh, this has to be this song or whatever, or there needs to be the hook or like, you know what I mean? So I think even that, just like being free with what I make, you know what I mean? And just being more like, I don't know, like trying to like overthink everything, you know what I'm saying? And just going with it. Cause even like cold cuts, that's the thing. Then I started writing so much that cold cuts, that's why I unloaded on that. But I was like, yo, I'm gonna unload on cold cuts, and then I'm gonna like the next shit I do, I want to make it a little bit more concise. You know what I mean? But that's
Yeah.
why cold cuts was like some real mixtape shit. You know what I mean? It was like this is just gonna be me keep going. Like on someone you heard like a Wayne mixtape, you're just like, damn, damn. It's just like it's not stopping. It's not like yeah, 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 yeah.
That's crazy. Yeah, and I think personally, like the way I think over the past like few years, even a little before Half God too, like I feel like the way I feel like you've improved in the way that you're able to get more personal, like and like descriptive. Like you found a way to peel back like a new layer of detail in like a story or some kind of emotion that I don't think I heard nearly as strongly as I have on like Telephone Booth. Man, yo, Telephone Booth, I just have to say that shit was really fucking good. And I feel like that's like low key one of your best projects. Like especially
Oh,
because
yeah.
one thing I didn't know, and I want to say it here because I feel like I hadn't heard it mentioned other than like, prepping for this conversation, I checked out an interview where you were told by Na to like keep the beats exactly the same length as he sent them to you. So you had that like restriction. That
Yeah,
shit's
yeah.
crazy because like the focus on that tape, because obviously the songs are so short. Like I was so impressed.
Nah, I feel that. That actually was I forgot to mention, like that's really the start of that too, like of like that I'm gonna just we had me and Nam been meaning to like do a project, but it was kind of the beginning of that, like, fuck it, I'm gonna just make something with Nam and not like have to be like, oh, everything needs to be perfect how I want it, and,
Hmm.
and just be like, yo, let's just do it. You know what I mean? And then having that restriction and like just running with it and kind of like exactly kind of honing down on the lyrics and everything. That project's sick, and
Hmm.
that's like one of those ones I fuck with too. Like we were saying, like you can if you really get into the shit, then you can dig in and then find Telephone Booth and be like, damn, this is like an ill project. It's just cool to have like it's like art at the end of the day, not to be like a prick about it, but it's like you know what I mean. It's like each thing doesn't have to be the same. It doesn't have to be like, oh, they don't have this type of song on it. It's like it's just this is what this was, and this, you know what I mean? Like it's like you don't have to like even like critics or fans. It's like people overthink shit a lot, and they're like, it's like, bro, just take it for what it is. You know what I mean?
Hmm. Yeah.
Personally, but I think that's also comes with being an artist. It's like when you're in it. I look even to other people's music. I'm less critical than when I was younger. I was way more critical. Like when I was a kid, I was like, "Oh, this shit's whack," or "This shit's this." But now I'm like, "Oh, this is just what they made. This is just like the art they made." You know what I mean? Like
Yeah, that's funny you say that because I think I struggle with that as like a listener because obviously I don't make my own music. And but even when I'm talking to like people I know that are really just not into music like that, and they're like I remember I was talking to this one girl and she was saying like, "Oh, like I really need the music to like if the lyrics don't mean anything or if I don't understand them exactly, like it just I can't like the song like that." I'm like, I get that. You know, there's certain parts of music where I'm like, I really do want to understand what they're saying. I want to relate and have a
Yeah, yeah,
personal connection, but it's not always about that. Like everybody points to Supreme Clientele, but I mean, yeah, that shit, I don't need to understand every fucking
yeah,
line and what it
yeah.
means. It's
It's
just
the thing is,
how he said it. It's the art in that. Like,
yeah, no, for sure. I think also then but that's the thing that's dope about hip hop and rap, but also any music too. I think is like
yeah.
just you could get into the like it's like a language, you know what I mean? Like it's the same reason why someone will be like, oh, it's like someone listens to like black metal or some shit. You know what I mean? And you're like, oh, how could you listen to that? It all sounds the same, da, 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 right? But like if you
Hmm.
have the language of that and you start to listen to it, you're not gonna know it the first time, but then you start to, you know what I mean? And then it's like
Hmm.
start to hear certain things. Like that's what's dope about this shit. I can throw on Supreme Clientele and I can still hear different meanings to things and like go listen and be like, oh shit, that's what he meant. You know what I mean? You start hearing things differently and like it grows on you in a different way and it has that replay value too because of that. Like I think certain shit it's like cool when it's so simplified, but it's dope to like, you know what I mean? It's like learning. I don't know. It's like rap is like a language too. It's the same shit. Someone will be like, "Oh, I don't understand what you're saying," but it's like you just keep listening. That happens to me all the time. People mess up my lyrics all the time, but it's like after a while you might get it or you might not. But that's
Hmm.
part of the listening process. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's like even like a word choice. Like people can be like, "Oh, you're like this song is the same as this other song because they're rapping about like a similar story." But it's like, bro, the guy said this kind of word choice with this flow. That shit hit. That hurt. Like that hit my soul. Like that's just cool as
Mm-hmm.
fuck. And it's not like he's the content like literally speaking is different, but it is different. Like,
No, totally. I know what you
yeah.
mean. It's subtle. It's such a subtle thing. It could be the word. It could be like the way he went off flow for a sec, and that shit just,
Hmm.
you know what I mean? It's like it's not. There's no science to it. You know what I mean? That's why.
Yeah. It's low key funny to me too how people talk about rap sometimes disparagingly about like, oh, it's like it all sounds the same and all that shit, or like the lyrics don't mean anything. Like it's funny because so many other genres exist where like lyrics are just not a focal point, and that shit could mean nothing. And no one cares because it's not the focal point. Like if it's some like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
rock song with like a really catchy pop rap, pop rock hook, like people aren't saying like, oh, I just don't really get what he's saying, or I don't really think that means much. There's not
Yeah,
such
yeah, yeah,
substance. It's
yeah,
like,
yeah.
but yeah, but you don't care though, and when it's other genres, it's just funny.
No,
But
I feel that.
yeah. But you know, like when going to like your show here, like when I saw you in Toronto, like I think something really clicked with me when I saw you live, because obviously that was my first time seeing you live, is that like obviously I knew you were a great rapper and all that shit, but man, seeing you live was another level. Like you can rap. Like me and my
Bro.
friend, I was with a friend and we were both just like shit, man. Whoa, didn't expect this. Like
Yeah,
fuck. And I think just outside of like, you know, your flow, your wordplay, your voice, like all that shit's crazy nice. But I think the overarching thing I love about your music, it's the passion. Like, and that's what I felt really when I saw you live, especially. And I'm particularly reminded of a part in Grape Soda off Half God, which now that I remember is a part I was trying to explain to you after the show. I was like, yo, I love this part of the song, and I couldn't like say any of the words. I was fucking fried. I could not
yeah. I couldn't
quote it.
either. We didn't
Yeah,
do that right now.
yeah, but it's in the middle of the second verse where you're like at the where I was like, oh, it's the climax of the song where you're like, not every God-given sign you get is on a hike on a mountaintop shown by some sort of light. That whole kind of part that's around there.
Yeah, yeah,
Every time I listen to this shit, and I've heard this song like 50 times, I don't think I ever once don't get like goosebumps. It's just like so heartfelt and raw, and I just feel like I can hear that how much you care about music and just about what you're doing on these tracks. And so as an artist, like how important is rapping for you as a way to kind of like feel more in tune with your emotions and like
oh yeah.
process your
Yeah.
life?
I think that's like the most. You know what I mean? Like I've tried like therapy shit like that, but that's the most like therapeutic, or just like even. past therapeutic, also like spiritual too, like in a way. Like I feel like that's like things like that I wrote. Like I'm not on a regular. It's like I could have only written that when like rapping and like listening to the music and like, you know what I mean? It's not just like I'm out here all day saying these like poetic things.
Yeah,
You know
yeah,
what I'm saying? Or
exactly.
like deeper meaning to life and all this shit. But that really connects me with it, I think. Like even you saying this isn't something I've like thought of per se before, but you like reading that line and like sometimes when I listen back on my music that I haven't heard in a minute, I'm like, damn, I was really saying some shit. Like
Mm-hmm.
and not just saying some shit like, oh, I was spitting crazy. Like I was like saying some like deep shit, like, or even if it's just touching on it, you know what I mean? Just like
Mm-hmm.
getting that feeling for a sec. I think like that for sure. That's like I don't know. It's just like that's my outlet. You know what I mean? Whether it's like what I'm going through in life or just even feeling, just feeling happy or just feeling like connected to something deeper, even on a like religious level, I would say. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like I'm not like I'm like a spiritual dude, but I'm not like I'm really like I don't know. I'm just trying to figure it out. You know what I mean? I
Mm-hmm.
don't have any like set in, but you know what I mean? Like
Religious belief. Yeah,
yeah, I'm
yeah,
not like
yeah,
oh nah. I'm not like I'm Catholic or some shit. I mean I am on some like Puerto Rican Irish shit, but you know what I
yeah,
mean? Not like really, you feel what I'm saying?
yeah.
But it's like so that I don't know. Like music is definitely the way, and I probably should like try to figure out other ways. But music, my whole life has been the way that I like can reach that or like express myself or just feel comfortable. It's like on the roof. The only time I feel real, the times when I rap. You know what I mean? And that's real. Like, because I'm talking about, do I really want shows to come back? And it's like, I'd be nervous. I don't like the day of the show isn't like the best day. I'm like stressed. I'm like,
Oh
you know what I
wow.
mean?
Yeah.
So, but when I get up there, that's like really me releasing that shit. And like, you could hear it, like what you said. It's like the passion is just like being in that moment and like playing live, you know what I mean? And just having that mic, like that's me for real. That's like the like me comfortable, you know what I mean? That's like the most comfortable I am, the most like you know what I'm saying? Like that's like the real version of who I am, like Patrick Morales type shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I feel like it like compels you to push yourself to think about things a bit deeper or like really be honest because I mean obviously you care about your music. You don't want to put some like half-baked like kind of confusing, not even really representative of you type shit in your music. So like I feel it, and then inherently if you're doing that you're gonna start kind of stumbling upon some real gems that like that grape soda part because like even just like that simple part that I quoted, like I think the next line you're like it's more subtle, and when I heard that, it was like such a I don't
Yeah.
remember like it was such a lightning bolt not lightning bolt light bulb moment for me because like I feel I tend to be kind of dramatic in my life about like oh I'm gonna go on like literally I'm gonna go on this fucking hike and I'm gonna like figure out my fucking life today. I'm gonna look at this beautiful view, but it's not like a movie. It just
Uh-huh.
kind of happens over time and you start to look at things differently and it was just like damn that's just beautiful. Like I
Yeah.
was like
No, I
fuck
feel that.
yeah.
I love that line too. It's more subtle because it's like that's real. It just be like some subtle shit. You know what I mean? Like, but even that, you just like know, like when you hear it, you like someone, you're like, oh, I know the moments. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like those moments where it's just like this subtle thing, but it's like you feel something, you know?
Mm-hmm. And like I love just the kind of we've talked about it many times. Like I love how descriptive and detailed you are in your rhymes. And so I wonder like what's your usual way to get inspiration when you write? What's your usual process like?
Usually, for me, it could really go a couple different ways. Like I could have something. I like be writing different lines down throughout the day. If I think of something, but so I could like start off that, but also just sometimes like usually just like listening to shit or like trying to, you just certain even like a certain beat that you were like, oh, I'm gonna write on this. Then like you might have heard it so many times, like just get feeling something fresh and just like getting that wave of inspo or like even going out to the park and just like being outside for me, that's like a big one. So now that it's nice out, I'm hyped because I'm gonna tap in, start
Mm-hmm.
writing. But I don't know, like the process itself is just like. It's hard to say. It's just like I don't know. I just sit down and fucking light up a spliff and just tap in. You know what I mean? But a lot of the time, if I'll like listen to old music or something. You know, just like play mad music, and that shit'll inspire me. Or like just trying to stay active in life and like being with the homies. That's a big one.
Yeah.
Cracking jokes and shit. Because then like you get some of that real language and real life. You know, even you could be with the homies like talking shit, and you're like, "Oh, that's crazy. I'm gonna use that shit." Like, you know what
Yeah.
I mean? It's
So it's
kind
like
of
living life for you is kind of like a big way. Just basically living life gets the inspiration naturally, which
yeah. I
I
mean,
can
I
agree with.
try to. Sometimes I'm not as inspired as others. You know, like the past year, I was just writing OD. I have a whole
Hmm.
project coming up soon, but like, and then in the beginning of the year, I'm just kind of put on the like planning cap a little bit more, like trying to really stay focused and not like lose track of all the work I've done and like
Hmm.
release everything properly.
Yeah.
So I've been kind of taking a little bit of break, but I'm still like, there's this project I've been working on that like I've been like tapped in with. But you know, it's like you go through those different, like last year I was just writing. Like I did cold cuts. I did this whole album that I have that I'm dropping this year. So like there's mad shit, but I think that's cool too, because now I'm just trying to live life and not be like so put too much pressure on myself. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Kind of be
Yeah.
like, let me let it come, you know?
And like outside of your rap kind of like process, one thing that is very clear, and I don't think gets enough you don't get enough credit for, is just like you're so fucking versatile in terms of like what you rap over from like a beat perspective. Like you got like you can go like the drumless stuff, you can go booming, completely opposite, booming subject five, like
Yeah.
crazy drum heavy beats, like the Rat King shit, which is like left field, pad
Mhm.
drumming freakouts, that
Yeah.
telephone booth with nah, like so many sounds. What do you look for in a beat? Like what is it what's necessary in a beat for you to decide to rap in it? Because it doesn't
See
seem
that
to be like a particular sound. You seem pretty comfortable in anything.
that's the thing. It's a subtle thing. I think it's like sometimes it has to do with a melody sometimes, but I just need to like feel it. You know what I mean? That's kind of like undescriptive, but it's like
Hmm.
it's just a certain thing. Like it just gives you that feeling. You know what I mean? Where you're like, this is gonna bring something out of me. Like you're like, it's not even like I want to write to this. It's like I need to write to this. You know what I mean? I feel like that's like Half God, all them joints on Half God was like, I need to write on this. You know what I mean? Like this shit's perfect.
Hmm. And
And
oh sorry, go.
either way, I think like specifically with the versatility is more like being with sport a lot of because he was like, yo, we got to do some like this type influence or like we got to do some like jungle influence. We got to do this. So I'm like, oh shit. So that kind of trained me too, I think, to like rap over all types of shit. And I like experimenting and having fun and doing different flows and shit. That's like it's fun to not just stay in one lane. You know what I mean? Like in terms of musically, because it's also fun to just rap over a loop. You know what I mean? Because you have so much freedom there. But it's like it's ill to like tap in on some like rhythmic shit too. You know?
Well, I have actually like a patron question. Someone, a Fat Man Tomb, he was asking, will you ever do a drill rap song? He just feels like you could do one.
I feel like I've rapped over some like drill type beats, but it's not necessarily like a drill song, right?
Yeah, because I feel like you've gotten close to like, but not fully. Yeah, it's been close. Some of the harder shit that like I've heard from you in the past is close to it for
I need
sure.
to, yeah, I feel like there's something in the past that's like close to that. But yeah, I mean, I'll rap on a dope beat. So if it's an ill ass drill beat for sure.
Hmm. And so I like something I've noticed in reading some of your past interviews, listening to them, like you've often said that around the time Half God dropped, and you've sort of hinted at it already. So 2021 timeframe was a bit of a sort of a new chapter for you. Like it signaled a new chapter for you. And so I want to retrace your steps a bit and touch on one of the first notable things I feel like in this evolution, if you will, which is you decided to leave the major label game and went independent from 2019 onward with Wixset Enterprise. So, what do you feel like you've learned the most from your experience while you were on a label, and why do you feel you inevitably like took this indie route and it's been a better fit for you?
Yeah, well, I mean, at the time, it's just a label's complicated. A label can be good, but it could also, be, I don't know. For me personally, I just felt a little stuck at the time, and it was like the person that signed me originally wasn't working at the label anymore. So that's a big thing. It's just like specific shit like that. If you have, and it's not as if that I wasn't in, they weren't like supporting me or anything. It's just to have that person that had the vision in the first place is gonna be, you know what I mean? That's like, it's like, oh, we're doing this. It's a collaborative thing versus
Right.
like you're doing your thing and then they're like putting out the record, and it's just like I just felt like I needed like a new start. You know what I mean? And like,
Hmm.
yeah, I don't know. I was just kind of like over it, and I didn't feel the, I didn't feel the, I didn't know like the connect. I just felt like it was stagnant. You know, they were like, oh yeah, we fuck with you, you're dope, but it wasn't like the full like belief in it where it was like we're gonna support this and put this on our back, you know. So I was like, all right, well, let me just try to do that myself, because if I'm gonna, you know, I'll if I'm gonna put in everything, like I'm better off doing it myself and like actually making more of the bread. Also that too, like ownership. You know
Hmm.
what I mean? Just the idea of being able to like own your own music more and like have more control over like the release of it, and just have, I don't know, just like,
More creative freedom too.
yeah, more creative freedom, I think, but
Yeah.
more creative freedom in the sense of like just the way you could release, or just like being more spontaneous with that. You know what I mean? So,
Hmm.
because I think that I had pretty good creative freedom. Like no one was like trying to. Even that, I felt like it'd be cool if on the label there was more of like a push to, oh, maybe work with this person, or like maybe go
Hmm.
this way. Like there wasn't maybe enough creative input, so I felt like I was like, I'm just doing this myself. Might as well just do it
Yeah.
myself. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah.
So yeah, I kind of went that route, which has been cool, but it's definitely been, it's tough. It's like you got to do it yourself. You know what I mean? But I'm just maintaining, you know. And I
Hmm.
got mad music, so we'll see what happens. And I got like so many different projects coming up, so
Yeah,
it'll be
we're gonna touch on that at the end of this. I promise you. I have
uh,
some questions.
but yeah, so I just went indie, but I don't
Yeah.
know. We'll see. Like we'll see what happens in the future. But I think it's all about having that, whoever you work with, just making sure they believe in it and they understand it and they like, not just they can see something in it, like they see what you see. You know what I mean? Like it's like
Hmm.
that connect. It's not just like, oh, this could be like this. Because then you got people trying to tell you to do shit you don't want to do, and like, but that vision that's like they can see your vision. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's so key. Yeah, especially in like a label situation where it's a big corporation. Like you gotta have that, I imagine.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So before we get into cold cuts and what you got upcoming next, I want to just fast forward quickly to 2021 where you did drop Half God, produced fully by Navy Blue, who's doing some just feel like his stock keeps rising every day. What in your opinion was like the thing that makes Navy Blue stand out the most amongst other producers you've worked with?
For me, I think it's kind of like what I was saying before. It's just like that feeling that comes from his beats, like, and it's just it's like I'm not, you know what I mean? I'm not the most technical person in the world, so I'm not like, oh, it's this musical thing he has. For me,
Hmm.
it's just like the what it brings out of me, you know what I mean? And it's like it's just he has that ear, I think. You know what I mean? Like, and it sometimes like those things are different for different people. Like someone could hear a beat and be like, oh nah, I don't like this beat. And I could be like, what? How could you know what I mean? So, and I respect that, but like for me, Navy's just like it just brings me that feeling. It brings it out of me. Like you could throw on any Navy beat and I'm gonna like probably, you know what I mean? Like right to that shit if I could have it. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
also it's about like the relationship at the time, and just like us, the time it was at, just even that, all right, this is what it is. It's like to connect back. Like remember at the say I said like, oh, it'd be dope if the label there was more creative
Yeah.
input. I feel like Navy at the time I was a little, at the end of the day, I'm an MC, I'm a writer, you know what I mean? But it's like to have some creative direction, and just have some that excitement of like basically after doing a couple joints, it was like he was like, yo, we got to do this tape. And to have that excitement and the like just the care, and even just that presence of being like, yo, let's do this. And then like me being like fully invested in like, nah, I'm gonna do the whole project with you. You know what I mean? Like we're
Hmm.
do it together. Because at first it was just maybe we recorded a couple songs, and then the more I was recording on his beats, because I was just like, nah, I need to write on this. It was like, yo, we got to do the full thing. Like, so even that, just to have that, like belief and support from someone else who was like, I trusted creatively, you know what I mean? And I trusted them to be like, oh, well, you should definitely get on this one though. Like
Mm-hmm.
there's certain ones where it's like, nah, you got to get on this one. I was like, all right, all right, all right, I'm gonna get on that. And that's important because then it just takes it out of your own head. You know what I mean? You're not just like,
Yeah,
oh,
you can just execute. Yeah.
I like to have collaboration in a way. That's why I think nah, like you probably fuck with that project because it was like that. It was like nah,
Yeah.
he was like you got to get on this one though, and I was like all right, I'll get on this one. I got you. Like you get what I'm saying? Like
Mm-hmm.
to have that side of it is important, and that's why I think I've been doing a lot of collaborative tapes. Like the past few projects, I've been like working with a one producer because just to have that guidance. You know what I mean? Like
Mm-hmm.
and that support and that investment because it's like if I'm invested in a producer and I'm like, yo, I'm gonna do the whole thing with you, then they're gonna be invested in you and the project more. They're gonna be like, oh, nah, like forming it, having that like it's almost like creating like an executive producer thing
Yeah.
for the project because it's like they're producing everything. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
They have that weight, they have that like
They have skin in the game.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Like that. Yeah.
So
And
and from there, I'm just trying to figure out like the next wiki project. You know what I mean? Because trying to figure out what that is,
mm-hmm.
like whatever the guidance I need for that is. But
Because that'll be what, 4 years then since Ufi, right? That was the last like
yeah,
non
yeah, yeah,
one
yeah.
producer. Yeah, shit. That's actually been a while. I didn't even notice.
But I got one more. I have one more. I got the Tony project. Me and Tony Seltzer got a
That's
project
crazy.
that's gonna come out this
Oh,
year. After that, not after that. That's kind of what I'm figuring out now. Like, what is the next thing? And I have certain songs from different people, but I'm like, I'm just trying to like what I was saying before. I don't want to just like I don't want to overthink it, but I also don't want to just rush it. You know what I mean? I have the
mhm.
Tony project. I want to live life and like make sure I don't lose track of that and plan properly for that. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, and I think like going to wrap up the Navy Blue point, I feel like it's almost funny because obviously he's a great rapper too, and I feel like his trademark is that introspection. And whatever these beats that he gave you, I feel like they just unlocked this kind of like emotional, more like personal side of you, which is like one of the hallmarks of Half God.
oh yeah,
And
oh,
I think I have like a patron question here from Jarvis, and he's asking like how you approached writing a Half God differently, but particularly how these raps like impacted you personally, because like we've said time and time again in this conversation, like this is some really like bare, honest,
yeah.
like stuff that you're putting on that album.
I mean, a lot of it goes into it. Like for one, I was kind of in a weird like me and my girl broke up. Not to make it like about that.
Mm,
It's like I was just in it. You know what I mean? I was in a slump a little bit, and I was like getting out of it. It was like even now, I was like relearning who I was, re-getting in touch with myself. And like then I was like pretty much sober for most of the time I wrote that too. So
interesting.
I
That's
wasn't
dope.
sober, but I was not drinking, I was smoking.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I wasn't drinking. So I think that like just gave me a really clear head and just maybe took off a little bit of the like, I don't know, certain shit that comes with just the drinking and like your mind being a little bit not all the way there all the time. And like so I was like clear headed as fuck during that process. And just in that period, just like really, I would owe most of it though. Even all that being said, is to the Navy, like the music itself. You know what I mean, and just
Hmm.
like, what it brought out of me, and that all that combined. That's what I felt. I felt like Half God for me was one of these projects where like everything just worked out at the right time. You know what I mean? Like the energy was just right. It was like boom, like it wasn't forced at all. You know what I mean? And it was like
Hmm.
then the art just came. I just started working on the art. And I didn't even mean it. You know what I mean? I was like, oh, I'm gonna just like it just happened. Nothing was like overthought. It was just so organic and like that maybe has to do with like and maybe the fact that it was so personal and just real and just true is why it all happened like that. You know what I mean? But I think it's a mix of things. It's definitely like Navy. I owe a lot to him and just the fact that he was around at that time and like there to like it was still like post COVID, but like, you know what I mean? There was people had more time. It was a little bit less like back in the full rush of things.
Yeah, it felt like an album where you just sit like you're sitting down. This is an album you're playing like getting all hyped up to go to the club type shit. And I
Oh
feel like it
yeah,
fit the
yeah.
time, like that fall time, especially where I'm in Canada. Like we were starting to open up a bit before we kind of closed off again because of like some resurgence of COVID at the time. But like it was still like a time where I'm just kind of chilling, processing my life, and this fit right in to that.
No, for sure.
Yeah. Um, okay, I want to talk Cold Cuts now. Like this is your latest project out currently, made in collaboration with Subject 5. It's dubbed as a mixtape, and I love that because like the variety on this thing is fucking crazy. Like, and it's also cool seeing you just rap over such a stark difference between Half God, just like how hard these beats go, flowing your fucking ass off. Like, how did this looser, more free flowing approach kind of help you or like affect your performance and experience recording the album?
Yeah, I mean, this was cool because that was like a plan. I was like, all right, we're gonna do the Subject project, but then Subject started DJing for me. So when I was on tour with Navy after Half God, we like that's like we already had a couple joints, but then we started working. He just showing beats, and then when we got back, it just made us all tighter and everything. So then when we got back, I started. Oh, this is a real thing with Cold Cuts is that I recorded that shit myself. So like everything before that, really, I was like with another engineer, like even
Okay.
the homie in the crib, like recording me. But like that shit, I like recorded in my crib. So that's kind of I think what made it like I just was in the crib, like writing, and I could just record, and then it was like unlocking a new, being able to record yourself unlocks a whole new like freedom of like, oh, I can just work whenever, like I could just wake up,
Hmm.
work, and like stay up. Because at the end of the day, if you're working with someone else, you're on someone else's time. Also, you're like aware they're there. There's that element. You're not just like alone in your crib, like being able to experiment and just be weird. And like to me, even though it's not like this was like weird, it's more like I just in a rap sense, I was just like, oh, I'm gonna go like full, and maybe like a rap nerd sense. I was like, oh, I'm about to go crazy, or I'm gonna like do a crazy flow on this, or like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and then Sub just got so much different type of shit, and like everything hits. So, and he's got so much variety too. So I think like us both having that element of like we both can do so many different types of shit made it like we need to like expand upon that and like do all different types of fucking beats and songs on this, because it's like, Sub has that quality too that you would describe it in a producer sense, like when you were like, yo, you could rap on this type of thing and that
Yeah.
type of thing. Sub has that same shit. He could do anything. So it's like to be able to link with Sub and just get kind of nerdy on it. Like, and not that it sounds nerdy, but like for us, we were like, oh, we gonna do like this
Yeah, you
shit.
guys were in the lab, like just
Yeah,
cooking
and
up
he's
so
like, yo,
many
we're gonna flip
different.
this. We're gonna sample this. Like
Yeah.
so we were tapped in, and that's why like it was kind of that. It was like in the spirit of like just hip hop, like not overthinking it, not trying to make an album for like to get reviewed or something, or like the debut out, just like we're making a tape. Like this is to me like that raw essence and kind of.
Just like some of the flows you had on here, like on Silent Meeting and like Mista. I just feel like there's so many aspects of this album, like from your rap style, where it seems like you're just so chill. Like you're so not
I'm in
chill
the
is the right word.
crib. I'm in the
Yeah.
crib.
Yeah,
That's
you're
why I
just
know
fucking it's
people.
just
People
you're just
say
out
that like
there.
even the way I'm rapping and I'm just like I'm just rapping. I'm not like Wiki.
Yeah.
I'm just like I'm just spitting because I was sitting in the crib like recording myself. So it's less of this like, all right, like I gotta perform it. You know what I mean? You're just like there. And I think it's cool because then I listen back and I'm like, yo, it does sound like chill kind of, but I'm like, I kind of like I fuck with that.
And the beats aren't like I would not describe a lot of these beats as fucking chill because
Oh,
they're
it's
so
not chill, but
loud.
I'm just my delivery is a little like
the
smooth. It's not,
the demeanor is just very carefree, I feel like, and very like unlike I don't care what you think about this, like this is fly and like I know it. It's very like a
but
calm
when you hear
confidence
someone
type flow.
rapping on like, when you hear someone just I don't know, like freestyling on the radio, some Jada Kiss shit or Sean P. Like,
Oh
how
yeah.
Sean P can sound real nonchalant. Maybe like on the track, he'll like be rapping, but it's like his ass off, but it's like he'll just beats on, he's just
Yeah.
spitting it. That's like I feel like that was kind of like the essence. It's like still hard as fuck, but it's in this place where like you're still sitting down. You know what I mean? On like a
Mm-hmm.
radio freestyle, it's like Big L, he's sitting down. Like it's like you get what I mean? It's not like I'm standing up performing it, but it's like I'm
Mm-hmm.
fucking rapping my ass off, but just on the couch to the homies. Like to me,
Right.
that's
Yeah.
what it sounded like. Like, and that's like I don't even know if I meant for it to sound like that, but it sounded like that because it was literally us on the couch with the homies recording the shit. You know what I mean? Like chilling. So, and that's kind of like what it came out sounding like. So I think that's hard. Like even talking about it, I'm like realizing like, oh shit, it just like was such a product of just what it was. You know what I mean? Just
Yeah. And I love subjects versatility, like going to that part. Like it's just and what was also cool is like because when I first hit play, maybe like the first few songs, I kind of had an idea of what this song, this out, like this project would be. I'm like, okay, cool, it's gonna be like this. But then there still is like the last track, the track with the navy blue too. Like there is like those more like introspective, more like slower, like more like less like loud, like booming. Like this is a fucking like Mista, like a fucking banger. Just like that shit live was that this whole album live like was like I had a
yeah,
new appreciation for it when I heard it live too, by the way. But
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
it's just such a good like cross section of what you do.
No, well, yeah, I think sub definitely like I was saying, we wanted to make sure. Not even we wanted to make sure. It's like what we were saying. We were trying to do like everything that we could. You know what I mean? We were like, oh, you got this type. You know what I mean? Like anything he played that I was like, oh, this is something different. So we wanted to have that like touch of half God, even if it's subtle. Like even that joint, one more chance with Lord Unknown. Also, that's the one joint that was co-produced.
Mm.
Lord Unknown on that. So like even that one, I was like, yo, this is perfect. We got to get Navy on it just to like have this is the project after that to not like I don't know, just to make that connect. And also,
Yeah.
we were on tour when the whole shit started. You know what I mean? All together. So like that kind of tailed off that. You know what I mean? It like Subject and Navy and me, we all got to know each other. So I was like, oh, we got to do a joint for this one too, because that's what I was working on at the time. Even the live element, like we were playing live, and then I was like, yo, you got to like do the vocals on the joint. You got to be like the
Yeah, I
DJ.
like that. He was fucking really going hard, like
Bro,
supporting
he's
you.
just like a natural. You know what I mean? So I think like he's the best. He's the best DJ, but he also the best hype man, bro. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He holds it down. So like, and you see that with the Popo show too. Like they're locked the
Mm-hmm.
fuck in. Subject and Popo are like, you know what I mean? It's like it's
Yeah.
on some sports shit. Like they're like, you know what I mean? But that's just Sub is ill with it. But yeah, so like I was just gonna say like it's dope to see how I kind of was like, yo, do this, but then he just did it so naturally. Like when he first started out, first track, I'm like sub Jersey sub. I'm like, all right, do your thing, and he just one take like everything. You know what I mean? Like I
Mm-hmm.
expected him to be like, all right, no, let me redo that, but he was just like full natural, like first time recording on the mic. I'm like, yo, you're crazy.
Yeah, and a lot of producers don't even like doing interviews, let alone rap, like or help out.
Sub is like a
Yeah.
bigger than a producer. He's a fucking star. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
he's also like the production is insane. I'm just saying it's like he's a real presence, and I think like
Mm-hmm.
that's a big part of Cold Cuts and just putting us on the cover. You know what I mean? Like
There's a boldness to cold cuts that I like. It's just like a really like unapologetic. We're gonna have fun. We're gonna do this rap shit. We love rap and we're good at it.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, for sure.
And yeah, so going to your next projects, you mentioned some of them. So you got a collab album coming with Tony Seltzer. Do you have like a particular time you're looking for that one?
It'll be this year. It'll probably be in the summer, but it's
Nice.
all done. Everything's done. We're just figuring it all out.
Man, Tony's
I don't think
crazy.
I even told anyone that, but it's all good. Fuck it.
Yeah, yeah. I don't mind. I don't mind. Summer, that's a good time for an album with Tony Seltzer. Like I don't know what it sounds like, but I know his shit and it's
Crazy. Sounds different as fuck than anything I've done in a while, but I think people are gonna like it, and I'm hype on it. It's gonna be sick. We're just trying to lock it all in, but besides that, and that's like I'm really hyped for for this year. But then I have another project with two other people that's kind of more under the wraps. But then from there on, I'm really trying to focus on making the next wiki joint, whatever it is.
and so this one that's more under wraps, you can't say anything, but I feel like people know what it is though, right?
I don't know, maybe.
It's a rapper and a producer. You said this in another interview.
Uh,
And that
yeah,
producer may have put it in an Instagram post that it's coming.
We got some shit coming, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, people can figure that out. There was an EP that
I
dropped
don't know.
last
Yeah, I
year.
mean, yeah, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
Something will come. I just don't want to say it all because it's like still we're still figuring it out. You know what I mean? I don't
Yeah.
want to like be like this is coming, and then
Yeah.
people, oh,
Yeah.
what the fuck?
But what that's gonna be crazy. Like fucking. I mean, the EP was dope, but I mean, the talent levels of you, Mike Alchemist, like that's fucking insane. Like
It's gonna be
that's
hard.
just like, yeah. I don't even want to. I don't even. That's gonna be highly anticipated. I'll just say that.
Yeah,
So I'll be
right.
eagerly awaiting that.
Sure.
Um, and so, and then yeah, you're figuring out the next wiki project.
So,
That's gonna be crazy. Is that gonna drop this year? You think? I don't know if you just said that
nah, that'll probably be next year.
next year. Where, and then
Yeah,
you have a Euro tour
yeah. I'm
coming.
going on tour in Europe. That should be fun. I'm hyped. It's gonna be good. Jadacy's coming out.
Nice,
Yeah.
nice. You got a nice UK connection. That's like something that's been pretty clear in your music, like from the beginning,
Yeah, I mean,
which is nice.
XL, we were signed to XL, so they're based in London. And
Hmm.
then we got to go out there early. So from there, I just kind of make homies out there and shit. So there's always been that connect. But I'm trying to tap more in, you know? I used to like go out there and work on music a lot, but I haven't really got a chance to go and work for a minute. So that should
Word.
be good. I'm trying to tap in.
Yeah,
Probably for this next wiki shit. We'll see.
that'd be nice. That'd be nice. All right, man. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. Like, this
Out,
is
bro. Thanks for
like
having me. I
great
appreciate it.
conversation, man. And I hope you know just that your fresh style, the passion, the listeners appreciate that. I appreciate that, and I hope you
Thank you,
just
bro. It
continue
means
what
a
you're
lot.
doing.
I appreciate you, being a great interviewer and not,
Appreciate
you
that.
know what the fuck you're talking about it. You know what
Yeah,
I'm
yeah, I
saying?
appreciate that. I
You,
appreciate that. Honestly,
you
it means
support
a
you,
lot.
you care. I appreciate that.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, I hope you have a good rest of the day. Take
All
care.
right, bro. You too. Have a good one.
Peace.
Peace.
So there we have it, another episode of the Rap Music Plug podcast presented by QLC TV. I hope this episode gave you some new perspectives and insights into what the greatest art form known to man in hip hop music has to offer. If you want to support the show in the most meaningful way possible, it would be my absolute honor to have you as a patron in the new Rap Music Plug podcast Patreon. Through this Patreon, you will be getting exclusive content such as bonus episodes, exclusive album recommendations, exclusive playlists, early access to episodes, and more. And above all, though, you will be able to support the show directly in a way that will not only justify the crazy amount of time I spend on this show already, but allow me to cover some of the expenses related to supporting all of these great artists that we cover on the show through the website, and will allow us to sustain and build on this amazing growth that the RMPP has experienced recently. So if you have any questions about any of the Patreon stuff, or just want to keep tabs on the show, interact with me on rap music and all the great stuff that we can talk about, follow me on Twitter and Instagram at rapmusicplugpod, or shoot me an email at qlctv.podcast@gmail.com. You can also rate and review the show on Apple Podcasts and subscribe on YouTube and Spotify as well. But that's enough self-promotion for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. Peace.